People look at their life and they say, "Oh my gosh, all these things have happened to me. Oh my gosh, oh my God, I didn't get this and that happened and this happened." It's happening for you. And you may not know that that's happening for you in that moment. It's like a growth period that it hurts or it's painful or it's struggle or there's resistance, but it's happening for you in the trajectory of your life and you maybe in that moment you don't really know why. But it all circles back around and the universe comes back to you in ways that, like, now I look at my career and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I didn't have the self-confidence that I've developed, I wouldn't have taken a gig working with Major League Baseball players. I wouldn't be working one-on-one with golfers and quarterbacks. I wouldn't be able to have conversations with CEOs and CFOs of major companies. The accumulation of growth has gotten me to a place where I feel like confident in my body to accept the things that the universe is giving me now.
Energy worth catching from a master of movement. Welcome back, or welcome to Grateful and Full of Greatness. This is episode 74. I'm your host, Mark Glicini. On this podcast, I sit down with guests who, in my opinion, live their lives with the pursuit of greatness in mind. Every episode, we discuss principles that lead to peak performance. Today's guest, Natalie June Hasson. She built her life around movement and the power it has to transform lives. She began her career as a professional dancer in her teens, performing on cruise ships, in theaters, and entertainment venues around the world for over a decade. That passion for dance grew into a love for all forms of movement, launching her into a 20-year career in the fitness industry. Now based in West Palm Beach, Natalie co-owns Movement West Palm Beach, a boutique functional training facility she runs with her husband. As a full-time and world-class trainer, she works with clients ranging from the general population to professional athletes, college programs, law enforcement officers, and corporations, always prioritizing biomechanics, education, and relationship building. On her way to creating one of the best facilities and platforms in South Florida, Natalie is a soon-to-be mother and always ready to help mentor and one of the brightest minds in the industry. She has a heart for service. She has the hustle. She has the humor, humility, and unwavering passion for her craft, always encouraging others to live mindfully and move with purpose. I'm excited for her to share her story, philosophy, and of course, her energy with our community. So without further ado, Natalie, thank you so much for carving out the time to come on here.
Oh, thank you, Mark, for that intro. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited to be here today.
Awesome. I want to start with something that I read in the Atlantic Current. You said this quote: "My job gives the opportunity to change people's lives, build lasting friendships, and guide people on a deeper journey to know themselves." I wanted to start there because to me, I'm already noticing and knowing you for a while now that fitness is much more to you than just, training in the gym. So could you just speak to that and maybe the deeper journey of people knowing themselves by movement?
So I think that movement can be a form of therapy almost. You've got your talk therapy, you've got your mindfulness, you've got all of these types of therapy, but moving our body and moving the energy in it really helps you move through emotions and learn more about yourself, not only in the biomechanical standpoint of like, oh, how does my body function? But it's also like, where is energy stuck, or where is my mind today as I'm moving, or why does this motion feel different today than it did the other day, and what has happened in my life at that time. So I think that once people start moving in whatever capacity that means, so that could be a walk, that could be strength training, that could be yoga, mobility, that could be playing a fun pickleball game, whatever that movement is, from start to finish, our minds and our bodies feel different. And it's about what we're learning kind of on the way and on that journey that really is the key to why I am so drawn to movement and bringing it to other people, because it's another form of therapy without them even realizing that it's therapy. They kind of come back home to themselves, come back home to their body, and realize the true power that they have within their body to control how they feel, how they move, and how their mind is.
Amazing. One of my mentors, Dr. Gilbert, when I met him in 2018, he shared this like Sanskrit word called Shaktipad, which means exchange of energy. And it was all about like energy being caught, not taught. And you're talking about, energy being stuck in the body. And whenever I'm speaking to individuals about going into a locker room or into a meeting, right, they have to understand that their energy is always being caught. Now, Natalie, knowing you for several months now, it's like, is this is her energy real all the time like this? I have to ask you, where does your energy come from? Have you always had that like spark for life every single day since you were a toddler, or do you feel like it's grown throughout your career?
Oh, great question. I do feel like my energy has definitely shifted and grown. I think that starting dance and sports so young, I got that feeling of movement and I got the feeling of like what movement brings the energy out of me. It's almost as if it was my therapy all along and I didn't really realize it,
Mhm.
especially dance, because dance is like emoting through movement. Whether that means energetically on a high level or energetically on a low level, you're able to get it out of your body and express it. And I think that that was a really great behavior for me to learn so that I could carry that with my life and understand, hey, if my energy is feeling not exactly the best today, how can I get to feeling a little bit more aligned and using movement as a way to shift over the years and grown into what I am now. And now where I'm at, I feel like when I'm meeting other people or I'm working with other people, I really care about the energy that I'm bringing to that room, to that space, to that class, because that can either be a gift for somebody else in their
Mm.
day, or that can also shift their day in a different direction. And I think that we can kind of control our side of the street always. So it's like we control our energy and how we show up. So if we're showing up with the best energy, we're gifting that to others. And what a cool thing to be mindful about the energy that you're bringing to others. And I think as a younger teenager, when you're dancing and you're moving or you're working out, you know that you're shifting your energy, but you're always like, you're doing that for yourself. But in the end of the day, you're also doing that for others because the way that you show up after that is always better. It's always better. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Funny little story is like I was maybe a teenager when I got it. I opened a fortune cookie and then I kept it because it said the surest way to have nothing to give is to give nothing. And I love how you talked about energy as your gift. I heard recently a few weeks ago that you can be generous in three ways. You can give away your time, you can give away your money, or you can give away your energy. And the best people I've found are usually a mixture of all three in some way or capacity. One more note, and then a question about dance would be I thought I came across as I was thinking about it, like express, exhale, exit. They all have this EX of getting it out. And I love how you talked about the emoting nature that dance does for you, right? Because it's the opposite of suppressing, meaning to hold on to, or depressing to push down. And I love how when you let it out, you actually become more mindful and open and curious. So I couldn't agree more with you. Let's go into dance because I know it was such a huge part of your life, especially early on. Maybe you could start us off with like what got you into dance all the way to you touring and doing it on cruise ships and elsewhere.
So I actually started dance when I was 3. And my yeah, like little tot, my mom enrolled me in dance. And I could tell that it was just like something that made my heart feel good. And I loved my love for music was also paired with that. So as a kid growing up, like in my home, there was music always playing, like Billy Joel and Whitney Houston and all these classics. And we used to dance in my house, and I used to go to dance class, and it was another way to connect with music and move my body. And I would always notice how I felt like in classes with other people. It was almost like you grow these relationships, even when I'm 3 or 4, with the other kiddos that are in your class that you're like, oh, these are my friends. We move and dance together and we play and we emote and we have fun. And as I started to like grow into understanding myself in second, third, fourth, fifth grade, I realized like I looked forward to going to dance so much. And I looked
Mm.
forward to that excitement and that energy building and the connection between other people and moving our bodies that I was like, wow, I wish I could do this all day. Like I would have done like if there was like an art school at 8, I would have done that.
Mhm.
And then I got to a point where I think a lot of people do in athletics, like in middle school where you decide like, hey, what's really my jam? Like, is it dance? Is it volleyball? Is it lacrosse? I played those sports. Is it softball? I was playing all three of those sports and dancing full time. So my after school was just like jam packed. And my mom came to me and was like, Natalie, you're really good at all of these things, but what is it that you love and how do you see yourself going into high school? And I thought, well, I mean, I love all these things. And I went to a volleyball like competition and my high school was like, well, if you decide to play volleyball, you'll be on varsity as a freshman. And I thought, wow, what an opportunity. Like, how great is that? They see my talent and I'm only in eighth grade. But for some reason, I felt really drawn to dance because in eighth grade, I went to other competitions and I saw that I was actually at a lower level than some of the other competitive studios. And I think that that opportunity for growth was more attractive to me than, hey, you're going to be on varsity, like you got it already. And so my mindset was like, well, I have a lot to learn still in dance, so I need to dive deeper into that. So instead of playing volleyball, lacrosse, or softball, I let go of all of my sports and just only dance and switch to a competitive school where I was taking class 4 to 5 hours a night. So it was basically like going to another school. And shout out to Korean Performing Arts. That was my like second home from home, and the directors there were amazing. And when they tested me in, so some competitive schools, it's kind of like when you shift school and they're trying to see what grade that they want to put you in, they test you out to see what level that you're at. And as a ninth grader, they placed me in ballet with the 8 to 12 year olds, which was like, oh, that that hurt my
Oof.
ego. I was like, okay, that's where I'm at today. But they also placed me in the same age group that I was, so I was taking double the classes, which is why I had about 5 classes every night because I was taking the level I was placed in and I was taking the level above it. So it was almost like I was taking the level that made me feel humility, and then I was taking a level where I was so inspired that I wanted to be better because the people that were older than me were outstanding. So dance taught me a lot about myself and how I adapt. And like, I think that the growth aspect of it, since it is more of an individual sport. However, you compete as a team. So it's like if one person on that team isn't rising up to meet everybody else, like you feel it. It's just like any other athletic team, but dance is more of an individual sport that you can go on and now perform on your own later in life. So I thought, let me see how much better I can get from ninth grade to 10th grade and then see if this is something I can do for life because I was so dedicated to that and I would say even addicted to the emoting and learning and feelings exiting, and then as you get older they do a little bit more artistic pieces, which is like connecting with other dancers, so you're touching and like physically connecting with bodies with other people. And that was also something that I was like, wow, this is like strange, but something I want to lean into because how cool is this that you can literally lean on somebody else and we can create this shape or this motion and then move forward together as a unit, as a troupe. So dance really like it grew from 3 years old all the way up to high school. And then once I got into high school, I went to this program called Governor's School for the Arts, which sadly I don't think they have anymore. It was a government program that basically 30 dancers in every state got to attend, and you had to apply for it. And you were sent to a college campus between your sophomore and junior year, and you lived on a college campus for 5 weeks and you studied your craft for 5 weeks. So I was like taking classes with these amazing performers at just 16 years old away at a college camp, realizing like, oh my gosh, I was chosen one of 30 dancers in the whole state of Pennsylvania. Like, I think I might be better than I am. Like, I might have this as a career. And at the end, they do evaluations and they brought me in and they said, Natalie, like, there's no reason why you can't have a professional career. And I was like really doubting myself, like, man, I'm not as good as this person or that person, but it was a lot of self-doubt, but it was also seeing like other dancers as inspiration. Once I had risen to that level, I almost didn't see that I was there with them until that teacher sat me down. So that teacher that sat me down made me realize I need to start applying for professional careers like now, because at 16, you can start dancing when you're 18. I mean, really, you could start professionally dancing at any age, but I wanted to finish high school. And then how it all unfolded is a week before I started to do audition reels, sent out all my reels to all these companies all over the US. And I got a call a week before graduation in high school, and they were like, hey, we really want you to come up and perform at this theme park. We need you to be there in about 6 days. It's going to be a singing, acting, and dancing position, which I was like, whoa, okay. Like, okay, acting, haven't done that before, but let's do it. And I said, I would love this opportunity. However, it's really important for me to walk with my class because I was very like intertwined in my high school, vice president of my class in a bunch of clubs, always active and involved. And I thought, I don't want to miss out on this for this one gig. So I told them I'd be happy to work with you in the future, or if we could start my contract a little bit later. So then they said, okay, we'll call you back. I graduate from high school, the day of my graduation party, which was like within the week, I got a call back from them and they're like, "Yeah, we still want you to come." I'm like, "Yes." So I actually like maybe a week after graduating high school drove up to New Hampshire to this theme park and did my first professional gig that summer. And I remember it was like before everybody else shifts into the real world of college, I was already leaving. So all of my friends had that summer to kind of digest, oh my gosh, I'm an adult. I'm 18, I'm going to go away to school. And I was like, okay, just graduated and I'm going to take this leap because I got to, because I owe it to myself. I trained my whole life, just do it, just go for it. And it was really like that was the door open into my professional career where I was like, if I take this leap, I'll be able to take every other leap. It'll get easier after that. And then that's kind of what led me into like I got more calls after that for cruise ships. I got more calls after that for casino shows. I found entertainment companies in Atlantic City, New York. I lived in New York for a little bit, kind of bounced around a lot, and it was like almost as if I'm sure you agree with this, Mark. Like once you get to a certain point in your professional career, that people can count on you. They count on your energy, your work ethic, your professionalism. One job or a gig leads to another job or gig, and then that leads to another one, and that leads to another one, and it's sometimes is word of mouth, and it's also sometimes like the universe rewarding you for all of the growth that you've done. And I felt like my dance career just it kept being like that. It was like one thing after another, but there's also a lot of rejection in the dance world that I think that some people deal well with and some people don't. And I probably went to 30 to 35 auditions in New York to try to get my professional card, which is like a card that you get once you've performed on Broadway. But if you haven't performed on Broadway, have to go to a special call for it. So it's like, oh, if you have your card, the start time is this. If you don't have your card, stay after and we'll wait to see if we're going to see you. So I went to like 30 to 35 auditions, and there was times where, they'd be like, anybody under 5'3" or anybody under 5'5", please leave. Any brunettes, please leave. I'm like, great. I was warming up for 2.5 hours, and because I have brown hair, I have to go home. And that part of the career sometimes pushes people out that don't have that strong like inner self, because they
Mm.
think, oh, I'm too short, oh, I'm too thick, oh, I have brown hair, I'll never get a job, oh, and it becomes something that is really like you against you at the end of the day. Because yes, your talent is like top priority, but also your willingness to keep failing over and over and over again is like what divides the dancers that are going to stay in the career for a long time. And I think that when I was in that professional level where I was like, this gig led to this gig, I was also auditioning in between and failing a lot. It was like,
Mm.
going
Mm.
to those auditions was like very humbling. You go in and you're looking around and you're like, wow, look at her extension, look at her foot, look at her line, she's moving beautifully. But you really don't know what they're looking for in that day. And I'll end this dance synopsis with, there was one time I was auditioning for Disney Tokyo, which was in New York, and we showed up, and I think it was like 650 dancers show up, which is a lot of people. And you're all just there with the number on, and you're trying to keep your energy the way that you want it. You're stretching, you're warming up. And they get everybody into a room, and everyone's so excited. It's Disney, it's Tokyo. Like, how cool is this opportunity? And the judges are in front of everybody, and they're like, okay, before we get started, all African American males and blonde, white, Caucasian females, please leave. And it was like there was so many African American males that were there to dance that it was like all the men left. And there was maybe like 10 Caucasian males. And it's like, wow, those 10 Caucasian men now have different odds of getting a job than just 5 minutes ago. And then when all of the brunettes were there, I was like, wow, oh my gosh, okay. So we all have a chance. And no blondes had a chance in that. So it when those things happen and you end up being the person that gets kept, you're like, yes, yes, this is great. I got this. And then your energy keeps going because you're like, I got picked, even though you didn't even perform. It's like you got picked because of a shape or your hair color or whatever. Um, and then not in that audition, I didn't make it all the way through in that one, but I went to the same audition in Philadelphia like 3 weeks later, and I got kept all the way through for the Disney Tokyo audition. They said the same thing. No blondes, no African American males. So I got kept. I danced all the way through. I got down to the last three dancers. I was like, oh my gosh, this would be a dream. I would love to live in Asia. And they go, could we have front, side profiles? And you're taking your picture, side profile, take your picture, and from the back, take your picture. And they said, and any visible tattoos. And they looked at my foot, and I had a tattoo on my foot, and I'm like, I just lost that job. And I was here for 3.5 hours dancing my heart out, so ignited. And then that tiny little thing, it shifts me out of the opportunity. And you almost like have to accept that that is the plan. Like that had to happen. There was nothing more than being able to go back in time and remove that tattoo that could have gotten you there.
Mm.
So it's like all of your hard work, all the training up to that point, um kind of it got you to where you are, and you have to appreciate that and keep appreciating that. Otherwise, the rejection makes you want to leave the career. Because
Mm.
there's so many dancers that would have been like, I was there for 4 hours and I got rejected for a tattoo, and this is horrible, and I'm never going to another audition again. And I just felt like, okay, that's one. That's one fail, and then we'll learn from that, and that's the next one we'll learn from this, and we'll shift what we wear, we'll shift our energy, or we'll shift the way that our hair is, or we'll shift whatever. We'll grow from that, and I think that dance set me up for the reality of life, which is there's a lot of rejection, there's a lot of growth, there's a lot of there's just a lot of self learning and understanding that you have to go through as an individual to get to the next level. That if you try to bypass that, it doesn't work. It's like you really have to know yourself and have the confidence and growth and want to achieve more in order to get more. And so
Mhm.
dance set me up to really learn, like, and grow into my own confidence big time.
This episode is brought to you by Whoop. For the last several years, I have not taken this off my wrist. Okay, maybe I have, but it was just to change the colors. I truly trust Whoop. It's a wearable that lets me know about my resting heart rate variability, respiratory rate, and so much more. I wake up in either the green, yellow, or red, and I know if I should prioritize training and working out harder or I need to prioritize recovery. I was always looking for ways to optimize and take my performance and training to the next level. Whoops helped me do that. If you're looking to get started, here's a free wristband and a free first month. And if you don't like it, you can return it at no cost. All you have to do is go to the following: join.whoop.com/MGPP. That's join.whoop.com/MGPP. Mark Glicini Peak Performance, my clients, I trust Whoop. You should too. Enjoy. Let me know how you get on. Now, back to the episode. I'm going to do my very best to unpack what I found to be so gripping. I mean, just from the start of your answer there, you said it made my heart feel good. I think more people need to do that. They need to find what makes their heart feel good. I feel like a lot of people follow into societal norms, but if you look at your story there, it's so inspiring that you just went right after high school. It's like this is what my heart's calling me to do, and you went up to New Hampshire. I love how you said the universe rewards you for the work that you've done. I do believe that. That's the Matthew principle. To those that have, more will be given to them, and they will have it in abundance. So success is not linear; it's exponential, and you always have to believe that you're on that hockey curve, about to go to a whole nother level. And then what I really loved about the early story was you were focused on improve rather than proving it. You were focused on getting better rather than bitter, and you were fascinated rather than frustrated that dancers were better than you. And I think that's a really cool mentality, state of mind to maintain. And I think that's what makes you pretty remarkable, Natalie. And the fact that I was talking to my spiritual coach last week, and we were talking about this idea of going down that straight and narrow line to towards success, if you will, because there's like many different ways in which you could fail and not so many ways in which you could be successful. And we were unpacking this idea of humility plus commitment. And you were talking about humility a lot there, like acceptance and then striving, right? Because I think a lot of people just strive, but they don't put the weight of their backpack down. They don't accept where they're at. They don't appreciate, okay, this is where I'm at and this is what I got to do. And I just love that all throughout your through line of your dance story there, you were making these snap judgments like, wow, that sucks. And I'm moving forward. Wow, that this happened and I'm moving forward. And I think I've really had to, in my own life, come to that acceptance so that I can commit harder. And I really never really looked at it that way. I was just like, no, just more work, more work, more work. But there's a certain level of acceptance that goes along with that. One final note, and then back to you, is um, the word congruence. It's very hard to be a congruent person because you always have to say what you think and do what you say you will do. And that's when in the middle of what you were saying, you were like, Mark, maybe you would relate to that. I agree. If you consistently say what you think and do what you say you will do, you become reliable, which reliable is a skill. And then people can say, Natalie, yeah, we're going to go with Natalie again. And you get this gig and you get this gig again. And throughout your whole story there was this like healthy dose of fear, which kept you sharp and learning,
Yeah.
right? You talked about it with that self-doubt, but then you also had this like unwavering belief, which I want to transition into you as a trainer and a coach and a mentor for other people. There's a idea in psychology called the Pygmalion effect, And it's the belief you have about another person starts to influence the belief that they have about themselves. And you had that one teacher who took this not only with self-doubt and said, no, you could be a pro. And it was like, whoa, I could be a pro. And now you do that for so many people, right? So one of the things I wanted to ask you at some point during our conversation was how dance uh, influenced your philosophy as a trainer. But I really want to throw the nuance in it, in the fact that you're now that teacher, trainer that kind of injects that belief into other people. And this is the specific question I want to ask. When it comes to love, you need this like encouragement and challenge. And you talked about how like that rejection that you've learned helped you deal with challenge. I noticed you as a trainer, you do a great job supporting someone, but you also like look to raise their standard. You're like not okay with them just like, just sugarcoating it. You're fine. You're really calling forth the best in them. Is that true? Is that how you kind of look at it? Or am I off there?
No, I 100% agree. That's definitely one of the methods that I have when working with other trainers and working with other clients, because sometimes, like younger version of me, people don't see in themselves what others see in them. And I think that when when you see that people have this gift, or people have the ability to move in that way or achieve that goal, or you know that they have it within them, as a coach, like, or a trainer or a mentor, it is my responsibility to not only empower them to see it within themselves, but also give them the feedback or the resources or the tools to be able to grow in the places that they have opportunities to grow in. So I feel, and a lot of trainers, they have their careers and they love to work with clients and they love to see their clients achieve. But I have this inner, I don't know, this inner will that wants to see people in my field achieve. I want to
Mm,
see the other trainers in my field, um like, continue to challenge themselves, because we are entrepreneurs and there's really no boss above us. Like, if you're at a Fortune 500 company, you have a management team and you have people holding you accountable. In the training field, no one's holding you accountable. You're holding your clients accountable. So I love to have this mix between, like, showing people, hey, you have this light, but also where are the places that we need to grow, and hey, you should check into this certification, or you should meet up with this person, or I'm going to connect you with this amazing foundation. Or it's like having all these resources and tools always on my little Rolodex for my team. And not even just my team. I mean, people in the local community reach out to me and ask me, like, hey, I'm thinking about going into the training field or the yoga field. Can you give me a couple of tips? I know you've had this career. And I make time for them. I mean, I schedule it adequately so that it's not, I prioritize, like, to make sure that I have the time for them. But I think that, like, it is to give back to my field is just as important as the energy I give to my clients, because my clients, I'm going to show up for them 100% all the time. But as a part of, like, wanting to contribute to my field, I have to show up for trainers and people that were once me when I was younger in my career, because I had so many amazing mentors, and still do, that I have to this day, that I would pick up the phone and be like, okay, like, for example, a guy named Dwayne was a huge mentor for me in the training field. And I used to pick up the phone and be like, I got given a autistic 13-year-old boy that I need to train 3 days a week, that he functions in this way. He doesn't like movement, but his parents want him to keep moving. I got to keep him engaged. I got to keep the energy high, but I have to relate to him in the ways that he loves to relate, which at that time was information. He liked to share information on anything, animals, history. And I'm like, the biomechanics are important for this child, but also the ability to connect is important. And so when I called my mentor, I remember talking to him on the phone, being like, "What do I do? I mean, this is a large responsibility. This is someone else's child. This is someone with special needs. Like, am I equipped to do this?" And like he gave me so many great tips and tools along with other mentors that I had that were like, try that. How about this? Did you ever think of that? And having those mentors made me feel comfort that I had support. But I sought those people out and they almost sought me out in a way. So now it's like fast forward to the future. I'm in my career now, like 18, 20 years. And I want to be that same person to trainers. I want to be that same person to people that they can call and be like, I don't know what to do. And instead of being like, yeah, it's a good thing you called me. It's like, "Hey, you just called me because I don't know what to do." And I'm like, no, you know what to do. We're gonna talk this through. I know you know how to do this. So let's talk it through. Let's go over some ideas you have. And then
Mm.
it's basically you uncover their light in that phone call. They already know. They just like that reassurance to go to the mentor to make sure that everything that they're thinking checks out. And I love being that for other people. It really like fills up my cup, but then I also know it's like a trickle down effect of like, okay, now that client gets supported in the best way, that trainer learns, that client's partner or husband or mom or dad gets to see them grow. It's a big trickle down effect when you start to give to others in all of those ways. So
Amazing. How you started that, I wrote it down like just seeing others, right? It's a basic need when we have when we're a child. You know, one of my best friends in my life is my 98-year-old grandfather, and at some point he was 9.8 months old, right? So we have these needs of being seen, heard, somebody to be proud of us, somebody to celebrate us, and you know, especially in my life, one of the things I would say that all my mentors do is they see me. They don't want to change me, they just see me for who I am. And then one of the things that you said about other trainers in the field. The psychology term there is called burging, B-I-R-G. It means to bask in reflective glory. And it's very natural to be like zero sum about things, very survival, like, no, this is my material, you stay away from that sort of thing. But it's actually paradoxical because when you bask in someone's reflective glory, meaning that like somebody else's win, you celebrate their win, you actually increase the probability of your own winning. So it's a really cool idea. And you understood that without even knowing burgeoning, right? Because once you start to burge more often, it's like you can give your oranges away from your orange tree, but then you start to create more oranges. It's like this weird thing that the more you give, the more you receive, and vice versa, like through reciprocity. And then mentors. That's really where I wanted to go. Like you're a perfect guest for Grateful and Full of Greatness because what I started to learn several years ago that everybody that I was really, really great, that I admired, right? They also had this like deep gratitude for the mentors, the people that were meant to tour them. And I wanted to ask you whether you want to go into Dwayne or the individual who injected that belief into you as a young dancer. Who stands out as one or two like main influences in your life? One more beat on your childhood all the way through teenage years before we move into the next chapter that you would point to.
as far as family goes, I would say the my grandfather, I am one of 16 grandkids and it's a big family, but he made time for everyone and his teachings were always like never stop learning. Like he had these rules of life that he used to like little like mentoring quotes that were like he was like a Tony Robbins of his time. Like he loved to give out this information to us as kids. And when you're younger and you're like 10, you're like, okay, grandpa, whatever. But like you get older and you're like, wow, grandpa was right on the money, you know? And I had a great relationship with him, and he definitely held us accountable to all the things we were doing and checked in on us and made time for everyone's game, everyone's performance. He went to everything. It was like he was a built-in mentor and grandpa. He was the man. So he was definitely my first mentor, and I think probably for most of my cousins also, I can say that with confidence because he had this mentoring, guiding ability that was amazing, and you didn't have fear around him. You felt like you were accepted as is, but he was holding you accountable to a standard that you knew, like, I have to do this for myself, but also I know my grandfather's out there watching me. And that was, a very cool thing to have, and not everyone has that. So I think he was one of my greatest mentors. And I actually didn't take one of my dance jobs. I got handed a world tour on a cruise ship that went from Fort Lauderdale to Fort Lauderdale, and I chose to stay home because I knew he was passing away instead of
Mhm.
taking that because I felt like I owed that to him. He was just such a guiding light in my life. And out of all of the grandchildren in my family, I was the only one there when he passed away. And I think that, like, I loved that I had that time with him, and I know that passed up an opportunity, but it was like nothing could ever give me back that time that I had to, like, kind of let him know how much I appreciate him. But he would do things that were like weekly emails that would be sent out to the family of, like, check out these styles of artwork and check out the history of this city. And, like, when you're younger and you're like, oh, I'm like, pop up, here we go again, man. But it is like he was my greatest gift. He was great. So I would say he's number one. And then in my dance career would probably be Joyce Crane, who owned Crane Performing Arts. She was the director, and she was a mentor in a very different way. She had a standard, and you did feel a little bit of fear to rise up. Like it was like, oh my gosh, I can't let Joyce down. I gotta do this. I gotta do it with 100% energy. And the things she used to do were amazing. Like at the time, you were scared, but like the song would come on, you would go to do your, like practice your performance before a competition. And if within the first 20 seconds she felt like that wasn't 100%, turn music off. What was that? Everyone's just standing there like, probably not my best, I guess. I don't know. And she's like, we're gonna start from the top. Like that was like the signal that you knew from Joyce when she would like walk back to the sound system and be like, from the top. And you're like, oh my gosh, again. And then like you get halfway through, and then she'd pause and she'd be like, and what was that? What was that formation? And everyone's just like looking at each other like, we know that was a mess. And Joyce just kept you on your toes over and over. It was like practice makes perfect. Practice, fail, learn. Practice, fail, learn. And she said very minimal things. It was very like inquisitive, like, what was that? Or how was that supposed to go? Or it was always a question. It wasn't like, you did that wrong, you are bad, you are inept. It was a question, and it made you rise to the occasion and bring your energy so much more. And I think that she had a great concept of putting people into the level below and the level above, which I think was a great mentoring concept for dancers to be like, you could be here, but right now you're here. So what are you going to do to get there? So the accountability was with her. And then in my training career, I'd say Dwayne was probably, I had a few people, but I'd say Dwayne was there at a time where I really doubted stepping into fitness in a full-time capacity. And he was actually the training manager of the facility that I worked at in Philadelphia at the time. And he looked at me and he was like, come be on my team. And at that time, I was like, no, because I don't want to let you down. And he's like, but that's the whole point. And I'm like, nope, nope, I'd rather let somebody else down in the beginning. And he was like, what? Like, come on, you need to come train. You're going to be great. Like, you're going to be awesome. So instead, what I chose to do was I ended up leaving that facility, going and training at another facility, and then I would work out with him one time a week. So I would still be mentored by him and had friendship with him, but I felt more comfortable failing in front of somebody I didn't know at that time, which looking back maybe my career would have been different and if I went on to Dwayne's team, but I still had him as a mentor. I still had him to call for years, and the conversations he would have with me were like very real, like very real conversations. And sometimes they felt like they hurt a little bit, but they were very true. Like and looking back on that, it was more about my self-doubt and me feeling like I wasn't good enough to do it because it was new. And when I had done so well in dance and was okay with failing in dance, it was like I was scared to fail in something new. And so I think that Dwayne was just there to just keep reinstilling in me, like, hey, like, if you can, he would also train me really hard. So he would train me very mentally, very hard. I'd be exhausted, and he would be like, get up, we got five more. I'm like, what? Like, it was just like, do not stop, keep going, work harder. Increased my like mental toughness that my mind would start to be like, hey, I don't want to do this. This is getting hard. And he would be like, no, you're going to finish this because that's what you showed up for. So those three people, I think, are probably my biggest mentors, along with so many other people, but they stand out to be the most pivotal in my life. And when you look back and you look at all three of them, they're completely different people, like
Mhm.
very different people, and they lead in very different ways. And they all had very high impact on my life. So when it comes to the leadership aspect, like none of them really were the same kind of personality, and they all had the equal effect.
It's wonderful. I mean, I found probably well over a decade ago the importance of having personal board of advisors in my life, and I go to them for different things, right? And I think that's what I take away from those three that you brought up. I want to share. I was on a 6-hour webinar with Dr. Michael Howard. He's a 45-year neuropsychologist, and he was doing it on positive psychology and resiliency. And one of the things that I take away from Dwayne training you hard is Dr. Michael Howard said, yes, we're becoming a less resilient society. We just have, comfort culture and different things like this. But part of the reason why we're becoming a less resilient society is we have less things to be resilient about. And I just thought that's the story that came to mind and hit me when you talked about him saying five more to you. Because when you go through those five more, you feel like I did that. I got through that. And satisfaction only comes after suffering. So while you suffering through the five more, you built that capacity of resiliency. And I love how you brought up, like, I learned this from Joyce and I learned this from my grandfather. And I think having that kind of combination from everyone really sheds light on who you are, Natalie, and how you kind of run things now in your life, because we're the culmination of all those different things, which you brought up this word, I would say several times now. You kept saying accountable, right? Accountability. And I wish I said it earlier, because that's the word that I was talking about when it comes to love. You want to encourage and support and then hold them accountable to a standard. And I would love to bring that into the boutique and functional facility that you're running right now, movement and growing. Could you weave possibly the standard you're looking to set, the accountability that you have, and what you're trying to do inside the field with Movement West Palm Beach?
This has like been such a very cool chapter of my life and my husband's life, opening Movement West Palm Beach. And when we decided to open this, it was basically an accumulation of years of the training field and seeing what else was out there for trainers and growth of trainers and career trajectory. We thought, like, let's open something that sets a standard of we all grow together, because most of the other facilities I've worked at, it's been very individualized. Hey, this is your client, this is your career, you grow your book. It's very individual. And I think that like accountability only happens when there's a team or someone else holding you accountable to that. You have to have somebody else involved. It's like holding yourself accountable is one thing, but when there's somebody else there to help you grow or to hold you to a standard, you grow even more. So when we were opening Movement West Palm Beach, we decided on building our brand around the growth of all humans. Um, and that means our clients and our trainers and ourselves. So it's like, how can Nick and I, my husband, grow as trainers, but as leaders? How can our clients grow as humans, as aging adults? And how can our trainers grow as trainers in the field? And a lot of business owners are really concerned about the numbers of their business, and that is a huge part of their business. But there's numbers and there's also people. And I really wanted to prioritize people because I love to give back to people. Everything, like we talked about earlier, comes back around to you. And numbers are something to be very grateful for, and you can see your work in an itemized sheet. But with people, you see their growth and how everything expands for them around them. And I think that is something that you like, that not all business owners in the training field care about. And there's no wrong or right in that. It's just that uh, Nick and I wanted to do that, and we wanted to grow a facility where we could have events that support charities and our trainers be a part of it. We can have continued education for our team so that we can all grow together instead of feeling competition within one another, which other facilities are kind of like that. It's like, oh, well, there's this new kid on the team that has little experience, and then there's this 15-year veteran, and they're training under the same roof, and there's nothing to support everybody's growth together. So we built in this concept where and Equinox had this concept a little bit back in the day where they tier their trainers based upon their experience and their continued education. And when you tier them, it gives them an understanding and baseline of where they're at. Like, okay, you are here. This is the level of education that you have. This is the experience that you've had. These are the certs that you have. Once you are here, in order to get to here, this is what you need to do. And that gives them some structure to understand kind of what area to charge, like what range to charge financially for their sessions. But it also gives them the understanding that you can't walk into a facility and be like, I'm 180 an hour and I've been in this industry for 2 years. That is can totally affect a team as well. Like, given the facilities we were at before in all of our careers, it's like if the new guy comes in and he has a NASM certification and he wants to charge 180, but the person that's been there for 15 years that has thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in continued education is also charging 180. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense. It also causes resentment within the team. It also causes a shift within the team. So how can we make these gaps clearer and more concise? And then how can we bring tools to the trainers to also hold them accountable? So we meet with our trainers, and this is something that I honestly have never heard of in a training gym before, which is why I was like, let's do this. Um, is we meet with our trainers about, I'd say, 3 to 4 times a year to do goal setting, vision and goal coaching, and checking in with them. Like, basically going, it's like an accountability meeting, but my little gift to them is that we start this with a guided meditation about their future. We sit them down, we go through that guided meditation. My husband and I and the trainer, we talk about how that vision of the future feels to them. They can choose to write it down. We go over a grading scale of how they feel they've done in a certain terms of their career, whether it be social media marketing, client retention, whether it's continuing their education, whether it's their timeliness and integrity. They score themselves. We talk to them a little bit about it, and then we also talk about what they want the next 6 months to look like, or what is it that they see themselves in that meditation from 2 3 years from now. How can we scale that backwards and create a plan of trajectory to go that way? And some people have never had this happen in the fitness career to them. So they're like, what? Someone cares about my I don't even know where I want to be tomorrow. And it holds them accountable. And at movement, it's like there's this culture that has developed where they know that Nick and I really truly care about where their career goes. And they can come to us and ask us questions because they know that we're not just there to look at the numbers every day of what money our business is making. We're there to look at the outcomes of every client and every trainer, and then how they infiltrate back into the community, because it's like a little ecosystem. And I love that ecosystem of growth, that the clients even see that. They're like, wow, I love the fact that you tier your trainers and it's based upon education and experience, because I know I could work with so and so at this rate, or I could work with so and so at this rate, and the difference between the two. And if financially I'm not able to afford this, I know I'm still, you're holding that trainer to this standard. And that is very clear. And I think clear communication to clients and clear communication to the trainers sets up a system that is like, there's no hidden stuff. It's like, no, we actually care that you grow. We encourage you to do continued education. And then on top of those little vision and goals things, we also have built-in support where there's photo shoots provided for them so they can market themselves. There is events that we create that they can attend that are collaborative with companies like Lululemon, Viore, um, and we also bring in speakers to the team to do continued education. You were one of our awesome speakers. So it's like, it's really cool to bring those tools. Anything from, hey, here's a physical therapist that's going to talk to you about pelvic floor and pre-postnatal birth, to a mental performance coach that's going to talk to you about the mental performance of your clients and yourself, to, hey, here's this chiropractor and we're going to go over spine health. And it's like we go between all these different genres so that they can grow a little bit under our roof, but we also encourage, like, hey, you still need to get your CEUs. You still need to keep growing. Even though you've built your clientele book, if you stop learning, you're failing your client. So let's all level up together. Let's all hold the standard high for one another. Let's work out together. And let's keep this like, it isn't under our roof, it doesn't feel like competition. It feels like you're looking at the other trainer. Like, we have another trainer, Rachel, and she amazes me. I look over at her stuff, her warm-ups, I'm like, man, that is cool. Okay, I love that. I'm gonna take that. And then people are looking, or even the way that you talk or the engagement. Like my husband, he sees older clientele, and that when it rains and they have to go from the door to the car, he holds the umbrella and walks that woman out to her car, makes sure she gets in, she's safe. I mean, it could be any age. It's like he sets that service level high, and when you're in a room, when you're in a field where everybody is setting bars, you all like just rise up together. So the concept behind movement is like inclusivity of the whole team growing together, instead of it feeling like little exclusive LLCs that just work under a roof.
This episode is brought to you by Thorne Health Tech. Which company do you trust when it comes to your health? Thorne Health Tech provides over 190 supplements and products necessary to avoid deficiencies and optimize mental acuity, holistic health, speed, strength, and conditioning. For years, I've taken their amino complex, whey protein, and elite multi AM and PM vitamins. I'm proud to represent Thorne. Why? Because their quality of products is the highest, as well as purity and potency of every supplement. They're backed by the Mayo Clinic. The raw materials that go into the supplements are NSF certified for sport, as well as tested and retested to meet Olympic standards. So if you're looking to optimize your performance and get to the next level, whether it's to meet your protein thresholds or just optimize holistically, trust Thorne. To get started, enter your email and enjoy 25% off at thorne.com/u/Mark Glicini. That's thorne.com/u/Mark Glicini. Enjoy. Now, back to the episode. If you are listening to this in South Florida, or you're visiting South Florida and you're not about to stop at Movement to work with Natalie and her team, you got to wake up and smell the coffee. I mean, the above and beyond nature, extraordinary, right? And every single step of the way in our conversation here, I've noticed the extra, right? From how you were speaking about your grandfather, and then the extra giving, and the burgeoning we were talking about, and the tiered coaches, and the growth that you're interested in. One of the things that I talk about recently about the importance of playing the long game, which is obvious to me what you guys are playing at your facility, is there are trees that still grow in the desert. They get a ton of sun and they grow really quickly. However, they snap at first storm because there's no deep-seated roots. And it's very metaphorical for many things in life. And I love how you were talking about the long-term trainer that's invested thousands and thousands of hours and extra units, and then versus someone who thinks, oh, I just showed up, so here I am. And I think the deep-seated rooted nature of investing the time, sharpening the craft, sharpening your mind, sharpening your body, timing the seed, is really, really important. And one of the things I want to give the listeners is the behind the scenes of you, Natalie, which I know we're doing a little bit, but throughout this entire conversation, you're talking about giving, and then the extra care that you do for your trainers and mentoring other people, but you've been a primary caregiver for your father for many, many years. Could you speak to that and maybe the influence it's had on you and how you look at life and your profession?
Yeah. So when I was 25, I was at that point had already shifted into fitness and was still dancing. So I was like basically juggling two careers at that time. And at that time, my dad got sick. He ended up in a coma and had a brain injury. Had also had kidney failure. Already had heart disease. Had already had strokes. So he had this brain injury, and I knew at that time, like I was in the heat of growing my career, but also there is just I mean, my family instilled in us that like your family is your family, like you show up. So I knew at that time, okay, I've got to show up for him. He's unable to take care of himself, and I can take care of him. My parents are divorced, and I have a little brother who also helped me a little bit. But at that time, I just felt this responsibility to take care of him, and that was something that most 25-year-olds don't do. This was also as I was like really starting to get into my fitness career and was growing my clientele base and felt confident, like, okay, I can do this too. So I was growing in that. And then it seems as if, as I'm talking out loud, it seems as if like once I start to feel like, oh, I'm growing in this, I find a new challenge. And caretaking was that new challenge where I thought, whoa, okay, I have to take care of a human that is sick and ultimately dying, and I have to keep the end of their life positive even when they are not. And that is like really, I think, how I grew shifting my energy a lot. And I struggled, no doubt. I struggled with the understanding that I was going to lose a parent super young, that he was not in a good mental state and was not really wanting to take care of himself. So it was more me having to do a lot for him, else he wouldn't do it. There was a lot of depression, there was a lot of dark days, there was a lot of crying, there was a lot of grief and loss before I even lost him. And being so young to watch your parent dying is very pivotal in your life. It makes you realize how good it is to live. It makes you feel like I've got to take advantage of everything in my life because here I am seeing somebody at the end stage of theirs with regret, with discomfort, with grief, with all the feelings that maybe they suppressed as they were younger. And I was like, how can I balance all this? And I really had to figure it out. And I ended up w- working and training clients, teaching classes, kickboxing, bunch of group fitness. I would then perform in Atlantic City about 4 nights a week in shows down there. I lived in Philadelphia at the time. So I would be going back and forth between, and I had to hire help to be able to caretake for my dad because I needed to be able to work. So I was essentially working to also help pay for my dad's care. So it was a little bit like the growth financially at that time for me was just steady because I was basically working to care for him. But I also was proving to myself that I could withstand all of that responsibility. So it was a large growth for me, but seeing my father's health decline also kept me quick on my feet of the adaptation that happened every day. Because there'd be some days where I would wake up and I would do a little daily check-in, like, all right, Dad, what's today? What's the day? What's the year? Who's the president? And it'd be like, oh, it's Thursday. It was Monday. Uh, yeah, it's President Nixon. I'm like, okay, we are not here today. Like, I would have to check in and see where he was at, and then shift the way that I spoke to him that day and the kindness or the patience that I had. If he wasn't all there, I couldn't have frustration around the fact that his brain injury was really, really on point, like bothering him that day. I had to have patience to be like, he is not present at this moment, so I'm going to make this day about joy. And then on the days that he was there is when I had tough conversations. I chose like, okay, he's present, like he understands a little bit more of what's happening today. So let's talk to him about how he feels when taking this medication. And it's like trying basically day to day shifting and MacGyvering into taking care of him. But basically it ultimately he passed away when I was 30, so I took care of him for 5 years, and I truthfully feel like if I was not there, he wouldn't have made it very long. He wouldn't have taken medication. He wouldn't have gone to dialysis. Um, I did the best with the tools that I had, and then the tools that I didn't know I learned. So I had to educate myself on what is Medicare and what are Medicare supplements. And oh, he's a veteran and he never enrolled in veteran benefits. Like I had to learn about all these things I didn't know about NK care stages of life and try to implement them in when I felt like I was just a kid. Even though I was a young adult, it's just you don't think about death at 25. You think about death of like my parent will die when I am a grown adult. So I think that time in my life, I will say, I did not seek out any support groups, which going backwards, I honestly wish that I did because it would have helped me a little bit more with understanding how to juggle everything as a caretaker. But I still relied on my friends and family for support and reached out to some people to just vent or be like, or call my mother and be like, what should I do about this? Or call my brother and be like, hey, can you feed him dinner? I have to go do this. And it was a group effort. But I think that that time really taught me more about like just life in general and to make the most of it. And that like it has to watch someone die makes you realize how every day is so important to optimize and the time with your family and the support that you give to your family even when they aren't showing up as their best. Like my dad was not showing up great. It was very, very hard, and there was verbal abuse, and he was an alcoholic for his whole life, and there was still drinking happening. It was a very tough time, but I learned so much about how you can totally shift the end of their life, and I feel like I kind of reversed my relationship with him in that time. I got to know things about him I never knew. I asked him about questions on the days that he was sharper, and it seems like his brain injury helped him tap into old thoughts more than the present. So things that were really old actually came up as really bright thoughts. So he was telling me stories that like some people had never even heard in his life that I had no idea that he went through growing up, which helped me from a psychological standpoint understand how he ended up where he did. It's like, oh, he didn't finish school and left school at 13 and ran away. And then he had a whole career of stealing cars, and then his consequence was that the court sent him to Navy, and then from Navy, he opened up his own car shop, and then from his car shop, he created all these relationships and ended up with police towing, and then had this whole success, but still had emotional issues and regulation issues and alcohol problems that still happen throughout his life. And now he's ended up sick because of that and regrets all of it, and I'm the only one here for it. So There was so much that I learned on a therapy side and in therapy post taking care of him about like how all the things that I can do to one, not end up in any kind of similar path, and two, also to work through grief in so many ways. And movement is like one of those ways that I cope with emotion is like going to yoga, and the release and the letting go of feelings is like so huge when you have a parent that you have lost. And now I am about to be 39 this coming month. I lost him 9 years ago. And there's things that come up that keep coming up that like we're about to have a baby, like he will not be there for that child. We got married, he wasn't there for the wedding. We opened a business, he wasn't there to see that. I'm the only, grandchild that has opened a business out of 16 grandkids. Like he isn't hasn't seen these things that I've achieved, but I know in my heart that the time that I spent with him the last 5 years like made me feel so at peace with myself that I didn't I put a slight pause on my goals to take care of that, and I learned more in those 5 years than probably all the years of dance or resilience or training. I learned more in those 5 years about sacrifice, like, than anything, you know? It was a very, deep experience, m more depth than anything in my life.
Well, it's so beautiful, and thank you, because you didn't need to go there, and I know that so many listeners can relate to the pain, to the suffering, and, I know there's so much that listeners got out of that segment, and they'll probably listen back to it, I hope they do. One of the greatest, musical composers of all time was named Stephen Sondheim, and when someone asked him, "How do you create such great music?" He responded with, "I listen." And I thought that that was really beautiful because he's able to get informed so that he can get his actions in formation. And as you were talking about it, I thought about this is why I wanted to have you on, Natalie, because you're such a light for this community, but also just a light to anybody you touch. And I was heard recently, there's no such thing as darkness waves, right? There are sound waves, there are brain waves, there are heart waves, and there are light waves. And are there any of those places that there's darkness, all you have to do is shine light, right? And I want you to continue to do that. I mean, I want to wrap up this episode in the next few minutes because it's so much better to leave people wanting more than to stay too long. I have 15 other questions that I wanted to ask you about fundamentals versus variety in training and what you do in terms of how you get people for listeners out there. She has downtown city place, she runs a yoga on the weekends and has so many participants, dozens, sometimes hundreds, and it's just really remarkable how many people show up wanting to learn from Natalie because of her mind, her body, and her spirit, which is kind of evident for everybody that's listening to this. So I guess I would just take us home by asking you this question. Is there anything that you were hoping that we talked about that we didn't?
No, honestly, I feel like the whys behind like why I train people and the biomechanics and the functionality and my education, these are all just like little tools in my toolbox. But like the journey that I've been on is so much deeper than the tools in my toolbox. It's like the development aspect of my life comes from all of what we talked about today. And I think that like no matter what career someone is in, they could be in training, they can be in finance, they can be in, retail. And the trajectory of how things go in their life is based upon all the experiences and the summarization of what has happened before to get them there. So we could talk about all the things that I do now and I have pride very much. I have pride in all those things and I love sharing the passion that I have for it. But I think that everybody's story is accumulates to like where they get to right now. And if I didn't have the dance training that I had, if I didn't have the father and experiences that I had of caretaking, if I didn't travel the world at 18, 19, 20, if I didn't cross over fitness and dance and have the feeling of rejection. Like all of this stuff has accumulated to like where I am right now. And without that stuff, I wouldn't be Natalie. So it's like you know, when people look at their life, and maybe we can end on this. When people look at their life and they say, "Oh my gosh, all these things have happened to me. Oh my gosh, oh my God, I didn't get this and that happened and this happened." It is like it's happening for you. And you may not know that that's happening for you in that moment. It's like a growth period that it hurts or it's painful or it's struggle or there's resistance, but it's happening for you in the trajectory of your life. And you maybe in that moment you don't really know why, but it all circles back around and the universe comes back to you in ways that like now I look at my career and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, if I didn't have the self-confidence that I've developed, I wouldn't have taken a gig working with Major League Baseball players. I wouldn't be working one-on-one with golfers and quarterbacks. I wouldn't be able to have conversations with CEOs and CFOs of major companies. Like that would scare somebody else. But the accumulation of growth has gotten me to a place where I feel like confident in my body to accept the things that the universe is giving me now versus 15 years ago, 30 years ago, as a kid, I may not have thought my career would bring me here, but your questions that you asked today definitely shed light on the journey that I've gone through to get to where I am today. And without those experiences, like I would not be Natalie. It'd be a completely different Natalie. And I think that one of the things I love so much is learning about people's story. And when I initially met you and I heard your story, I was like, wow, this guy's pretty cool. Like he's also had similar things that have happened in his life. Like he's pursued his passion in his sport in lacrosse. He's dabbled in another career and realized it wasn't really in his heart to continue. He's had a mother that was ill. Like you've had very similar struggles to me, and I think that that was like a bond that I felt when I first met you. Like, ah, this guy, he's gone through it. He's gone through it. He's grown through it, and now he's using his experience to help others in same ways that I am, just different. You're just on the mental side, and I'm more on the physical side with some mental aspects to it, for sure. But how cool is it that we both get to do this for our job? It's pretty cool.
It's amazing. And yeah, I felt the same way. Birds of a feather flocking together right when I met you. I heard a trauma expert say that peace doesn't come from finding calmer seas, it comes from building a better boat. And I see what you're doing at Movement Facility. I see what you're doing on the personal development side. And I just want to say this, that you've transitioned from dancer to trainer to entrepreneur, now soon to be mother, and transition is the hardest thing that people go through in their entire life. But you've had the resiliency and the capacity that you've been building for a very long time. It's been an absolute privilege to get to know you, Natalie. I'm wishing the best for you and Nick as you guys build something so special. Last question. Where can listeners go to learn more about movement, about your story? And if they want to learn more about everything that you talked to about here today, where should they go?
So we have, you guys can email us and reach out to us, but our website is movementwestpalmbeach.com, but we spell movement without vowels. So it's MVMNTWPB.com. You can reach out to us via email. You can call us, contact us on any of our social channels, and we'd be happy to connect you in the right way. Our website is going to show you our entire team that we are very proud of. And it'll also give you a little bit of a deeper understanding of what services we have. But if you're not, seeing or don't understand the service that you need, you can reach out to us, and we have client support services, Jazz, that will take care of all of that for you and contact you and send you in the right direction. So, yeah, just go to our website or email us.
Absolutely wonderful. Natalie, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to getting to know you on a deeper level and continuing to work with you in the future. Thanks so much for carving out the time here today.
Thank you so much. It was an honor, and I feel very privileged and very grateful to be on here today. Thank you, Mark.